drinking my tea.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for inviting me down. I'm struggling with a little bit of a cold, so let me apologize in advance. This is a great conference, and I think very distinctive conference from many of the conferences that I've had the pleasure of participating in and perhaps more importantly, listening in on. This is an opportunity to really, I think, drill down on the area of information communication technology in a much more substantive and significant way. Let me just, though, for the purpose of perspective, give you a sense of what's going on here in the city and county of San Francisco, and then try to drill down on the purpose that brought you all here today. A number of years back, as you all recall, Congress, in fact, the U.S. Senate, on a 98-0 vote, rejected Kyoto. People forget that. As a good Democrat, I forget that. It's so much more fun to blame George Bush for everything. But at the time, Democrats and Republicans were candidly concerned about Kyoto. The Clinton administration had sent, at the time, Al Gore to Kyoto to help advance and negotiate, but Congress was a little more dubious. Needless to say, the new administration came in, had a chance to step it up. They didn't, and they pulled back. And as a consequence, a lot of us were left frustrated. A lot of us were left in municipalities like San Francisco, states like California, wanting and waiting until we realized that we needed to reconcile our ideals, and we needed to manifest them, and we needed to take some responsibility and account. And we put together these local global climate action plans. Again, local, global climate action plans. San Francisco, no different. In fact, we as a city that describe ourselves best as dreamers and doers, of entrepreneurs, of innovators, as a city like our state that's always on the leading and cutting edge of new ideas, we decided to be a little more audacious than Kyoto. And we actually rolled back, or called to roll back, our CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions 20% below 1990 levels by 2012. In essence, twice plus as far as the Kyoto Protocol is called. So we put together this fancy plan. But to say, as you know, is not to do. And every mayor and governors across this country, though governors took a little more time, mayors seemed to get it a little bit more aggressively, put together similar plans. Some were more ambitious, some less ambitious. We came back a few years later, and I started going to conferences like this, and I listened to some of these city leaders, and they said, we have already reduced our greenhouse gas emissions 28% below where we were just 2 years. And you started questioning and wondering, how the heck is that possible? And you started doing follow-up, and you drilled down, and you realized, really, they were just asserting. They didn't know what they were doing. In fact, those that were making such bold statements had only really rolled back their municipal greenhouse gas, which is this big compared to the city's greenhouse gas emission that come from the private sector and tourist business and the like. And so we were really misleading folks in this cause and in this effort. And as a consequence, not to be one of them, because I found myself saying, well, we've already reduced our vehicle fleet, we've done that. I decided, well, it's time to have a third-party review and independently analyze our greenhouse gas emissions and CO2. And we became the first city in the state of California, we believe the first big city in the United States of America. There was another city with a relative version of a climate registry that they advanced, but we independently submitted to this third party. And I could proudly say, and it's a reminder of where I'm standing here today, because we were just a few blocks down the road here on Crissy Field, right below the Golden Gate Bridge, with the head of the Sierra Club, Carl Pope, and some of my friends from NRDC and Environmental Defense Fund and others in September of last year. And we announced that in September 2008 that we had already rolled back our CO2 emissions 6% below 1990 levels. And this in a city whose population grew by over 100,000 during the time we initiated this program, and had a record number of visitors 5 years in a row. I say that not to impress you, but to impress upon you how remarkably easy it was, and how we must disenthrall ourselves and disabuse ourselves that this is particularly difficult. It didn't take much more than a piece of paper and a pen and executive orders to advance the vast majority of what we needed to do. It took as well a quality of imagination, which is indeed a renewable resource, and we got folks in a room of every conceivable walk of life and point of view, and they said, we believe we can do this, this, and if this doesn't work, let's try that. The whole idea of trial and error, good ideas, bad ideas, branching and pruning. Learn from your mistakes. As you know, mistakes are a portal of discovery. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's Wayne Gretzky. The whole idea of trying new things, being innovative in this field was missing, it seemed to me. But taking those principles that advanced the success of so many of you in this room and adopting them in a municipal basis became the framework, that foundation to which San Francisco has enjoyed some success, but that bar is still remarkably low. AB 32 in the state of California, extraordinarily low. And again, we're saying we're doing, we haven't really done most, in fact, not even close to enough yet to get us to where we all recognize we need to go by 2020, and my gosh, certainly by 2050, and the ambitious 80+% goals that we all share. So how do we do it? I started foundationally in two areas. One is tailpipe emissions and what was going on with our vehicle fleet. We got serious right away. You all read about, probably talked about, maybe even blogged about the work that Mayor Bloomberg had done on taxi cabs. Just seemed an obvious place to start in New York City. And he had an executive order relating to taxi cabs. And he took that idea, though, to the media, took it onto the Today Show, where he announced, that's why you probably heard about it. I had 2 years prior called my local cable channel 26 and advanced a similar initiative in San Francisco. That's where you probably missed it, out here in the city. And we began the process of beginning to more strategically, and that again, those are things that are relatively easy to do as mayors, to begin to shift our vehicle fleet, anything we were associated with. So the purchase of all our traditional vehicles, we said we'll only purchase alternative fuel vehicles unless there's exceptions and waivers to heavy-duty trucks that we couldn't otherwise find in the market. We converted our diesel fleet to biodiesel. We have B20 in all our buses. We actually started doing it in fire engines, the first city in the United States to do that because public safety concerns existed at the time. We used people movers down at the zoo with biodiesel and B20. We actually started sourcing the B20 from areas that people traditionally hadn't sourced them, from our fats, oil, and grease at our restaurants, in some big universities in the region, and some larger companies that had a lot of fats, oil, and grease, and we started converting that fog, as we say, into biodiesel. We got serious about green buildings. I put together a green building task force, 90-day mandate with specific recommendations we wanted that we were going to implement. Now we have the most aggressive green building standards in the United States of America. Every private sector building needs to meet LEED certification up to LEED Gold in just the next couple of years. We have, of course, the largest LEED Platinum building of its kind in the world. We just got the certification last Thursday at the Academy of Science, that remarkable living roof that Renzo Piano designed, 2.5 acres large, and one of the most sustainable buildings, museums on the planet. We're very proud of the work we've done there. We've been very aggressive on solar and trying to do more than just talk about the importance of solar. We put together a local rebate program, which we think is, again, second to none. And we used technology to the point of this conference, working with CH2M Hill and Google, and actually put together the first mapping system that ever existed in a city. So you can literally check in, put your address in there, and you can see your roof. You can drill down on your roof. You can determine the square footage of your roof that would be available for solar. And then right there on the same page, you can print out applications, get the rebates on the state solar initiative and the federal tax credits, which, thank God, were extended, and the local rebate. And then we drill down on manufacturers, and then we inherently focus on getting you to hire from our Green Collar Jobs program, where you get a higher incentive if you get people that were trained in our workforce training programs from particular zip codes in our city. Trying to make it as easy as we possibly can, again, using the principles of information technology and technology generally in terms of advancing, making sure we can advance the ease to which people can apply these more sustainable practices. We also got very aggressive on recycling, and I say that feeling a bit guilty about this paper cup. But nonetheless, we moved forward, as you recall, by banning plastic bags, which got a lot of attention, planning styrofoam takeout containers, which got no attention, and then going after water bottles, which got way too much attention because of my friends at Pepsi and Coke that don't really think much of me. Because remember, biggest water bottle manufacturers in the world are Dasani and Aquafina, which are tap water. I just have to say that. Tap water from New York State. You're spending 10,000 times more on tap water in a bottle than you would by going right down the hallway here and turning on. And actually, we test our water more than they test theirs. So I just want to remind you of the benefits of municipal water over bottled water. We could talk about the environmental side of it. 10,000 years to biodegrade, $1 billion of them end up in our landfill. The fact that billions of dollars and oil are spent every year to manufacture plastic, which is unnecessary. But that's for another time. And my time is up, speaking of time, and so I'm going to try to quickly drill down on a few other principles, if I may, take advantage of this opportunity. We also started some real discussions with a friend of mine, Shai Agassi, whom I'm sure all of you are quite familiar with, at least by now. Shai and I were at this conference in Davos, Switzerland, and Shai was asked what he would do to change the world, and I think I said I'd add 25,000 trees to our city's landscape, and he said, oh, I'm going to convert all of the vehicles in Israel to electric vehicles. He wins, I lost, in terms of vision. But again, Shai had this great idea, but he's one of those people who can actually deliver, and the next year he came back with his friend Shimon Peres, nice friend to have, president of Israel, with a real plan with Project Better Place, now referred to as Better Place. Seemed to me, though, he's out here in Silicon Valley, his former home at SAP and his leadership there, that he should be doing something out in the Bay Area. He said, San Francisco's a great city, but candidly, it's too small. So I said, well, what do you need me to do? He said, well, you need to either be a governor of a state or you need to coordinate the state in a collaborative. And so I said, all right, easier to coordinate, I think, a region. And we were able to get the 10 counties, not 9, 10 counties in the Bay Area to agree on 9 specific principles to create a ubiquitous technology structure that would allow for people to use similar standardized electric charging grid or stations throughout the northern part of the state. We announced this with Shai, and we announced this with a number of other companies, Kalum and others that want to get into this field with the governor's office, Bobby Kennedy, and many, many others, because we want to be the electric vehicle capital in the world. We're already doing more on hybrids. We're already going to be doing more because of the commitment of Chevy Volt and others on plug-in hybrids. The new phase, the next technology, the game changer, will be getting everything on the electrical grid and then making sure our source of where that energy is coming from in terms of that electricity is more sustainable and benign. This is an area where information technology, this is an area where technology generally needs to take shape and needs to keep pace in order to achieve our very ambitious goals. We already have a great demonstration project we just put in 2 weeks ago in front of City Hall. If you're ever driving by, you'll see that, a green demonstration where we're actually doing hybrids and hydrogen and CNGs, as well as plug-in electric, sort of the panoply, the menu. And as you know, Shai's idea is you ultimately, and Obama just picked this up last week when he was down in Pomona and referenced some of our work. The whole idea is that you go into, instead of a gas station, you go into an electric charging station, you flip out the battery and less time it takes than to fill up a tank of gas. And all of a sudden you've dealt with the limitation on range issue by having, again, that ubiquitous connection to these charging stations or switching stations throughout an entire region, thus limiting the one argument, seems to me, remaining around electric vehicles, and that's range. Beyond that, the technology is caught up and the battery operations are becoming much more efficient and more effective. These are things we need to be doing, and these are the partnerships we need to form. And speaking of partnerships, and my remaining 7 minutes over my time, I want to just compliment one of our partners, Cisco. A number of years ago, John Chambers and I were at the Clinton Global Initiative, and Chambers grabbed me the night before, said, tomorrow I think I'm going to announce a partnership with San Francisco. I said, great, I'm all for it, John. What do you got in mind? So I'm easy. And he said, well, we have this idea of focusing on ICT and focusing on really being a leader in terms of reducing the emissions coming from computers, PCs, coming from all of our connection to communication and telecommunication equipment. And we think we could partner with you and a few other cities around the world and develop some demonstration projects. And I said, bring it on, make the announcement, and you've got my commitment, we'll make this work. Ultimately, it advanced with a connected bus. Actually, I just saw it yesterday, and it's a wonderful thing to see. It's a Wi-Fi bus that actually, in real time, determines your contribution to greenhouse gases. Has in there a screen that analyzes all kinds of other interesting things, and I'll leave it to Cisco, and I'm sure some of the reps are here to talk in more detail. But it was just a demonstration that cost them, I'm told, maybe millions of dollars of intellectual capital, but only about $30,000 to $60,000 of actual physical capital to try this pilot. The whole idea is making our buses smart, and ultimately making, as we're about to do, all of our bus shelters smart, as well as extending this narrative of information and telecommunication management in terms of our traffic systems as well. We call it ITMS, which is otherwise referred to in nomenclature at City Hall as SFGO, making sure we have intelligent transportation management systems that, again, address the issue of CO2, address the issue of congestion management. We're going to do peak time parking. You're going to have actually sensors where you park in San Francisco this next year, and it will be able on your PDA to determine parking availability, thus not having to go around the street corner 35 times with all those tailpipe emissions. You'll be able to actually determine the availability of off-street or on-street parking on your PDA, your laptop, and be able to go, and you're actually going to pay more during peak times and much less during off-peak times. The idea is to change your behavior so that we're making sure we're managing our parking strategies and parking meters in a more effective manner. All part of this extended narrative of using technology and managing our behavior in a way that's not paternalistic, but is incentivizing a more benign and more sustainable approach in terms of our contribution to our environment, or in this case, negative contribution. Final 2 points. I'd be remiss. I can't help myself. You asked a politician to start. What do you expect? Just a few miles away on Ocean Beach, about 5 miles off the coast, on February 27th of this year, we asked, after years and years of study, finally, another reason to want to run for governor is to deal with the regulation associated with the green tech space, which to me should be the first place we reform if we're serious and committed. But to do a wave project off Ocean Beach, be the first commercial wave project of its kind. We believe as much as 100 megawatts can be produced. We're going to start with a project up to 30 megawatts in our round one, but up to 100 at peak, just this one demonstration project. I was just down in Santa Barbara, and I was at a town hall, and we looked outside. I counted 9 offshore oil drilling platforms, which, you know, God forbid, if they were up here, I'd be even more rabid in my opposition to oil drilling off the coast of California. But you can appreciate the intensity, particularly after they had that big oil spill in '69 down in Santa Barbara, their desire to move away from that old industrial framework and footprint. And we talked about a vision of replacing those oil platforms with these wave generating platforms that are barely perceptible off the coast, that can harness Mother Nature's energy. This is real. This technology is being advanced. This is something that's not science fiction. It's not something in Discovery magazine. It's something that is absolutely available and commercially achievable. But we need to take advantage of these technologies and take it upon ourselves to advance them. Second and final, right below the Golden Gate Bridge, right at the mouth of the northern part, we did some Doppler radar underneath. Just recently, it was about the 4th year of studies. And we finally determined the exact place to do a tidal flow project, where we literally we'll be out there in a big barge, and we'll drop a tidal generating, basically take the idea of a wind generating or wind farm and put it underwater and take advantage of Mother Nature. It's very dense, consistent energy that comes in and out of the bay, basically a flushing system, as you can imagine, the entire bay region, in and out, 24/7, every day of the year through millennia. Now the opportunity to harness that exists. Again, something that's happening in some large rivers around the world, something that's happening certainly in the Scotland, England area, something that hasn't happened out here in California. And that's unacceptable. And so we're very close to finally getting a small pilot there. We may have overpromised what that meant versus wave, but we don't want to underdeliver in terms of its potential impact, and that's certainly an area where, again, technology is catching up, and the opportunity to connect that to a smart grid, something, again, you'll be talking a lot about today, so I don't want to overburden you with the self-evident and obvious reasons we need to be focused on that. This is the opportunity, and this is the entrepreneurial life that we all have led out here, and now this is the potential to me is self-evident, obvious, to connect that passion with real action at peril, as some have said, being judged not to have lived. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to begin to reconcile and recognize the extraordinary gift, and that is the talent that exists in our region, and the venture capital, and that concentration of wealth that is second to none anywhere in the world. It's ours for the opportunity. It's ours to take this opportunity and really advance these principles. And so I'm very, very grateful that all of you took the time to be here. I'm very grateful to GreenNet for conceiving of this idea and really drilling down on information technology and new technologies. And I look forward to working with all of you, because one thing I know is that I know a lot about this, and I'm very passionate and eager to explore new ideas and try new things out. We have a city that is ready to go and try any new technology, any pilot, any demonstration. Final thought: if you have an idea, let me know. Please allow us to participate in helping you develop this idea. We are a laboratory for innovation. This city is uniquely positioned to help you in your unique position advance some of your ideas and ideals. And so in that spirit, I look forward to our further engagement. Thank you all very, very much for this morning.